Welcome to Equipped in Grace, when we talk about following Jesus in the chaos of real life. I'm Vinny Pizarski, and if you've ever wondered how to bring your Sunday faith into your Monday meetings, your parenting, your relationships, or just your everyday mess, this podcast is for you. So let's get outside of the church pew and get equipped for discipleship in the wild world in which we live. If you're listening to this episode in the week that it was posted, you'll notice we did not post on our normal Wednesday at 8 a.m. Due to some special circumstances and a missing computer charger, both of which were my fault, we are running a day behind, and for that, I sincerely apologize. That being said, let's dive into today's episode. Last week, we discussed the importance of loving God and loving others, and took a look at how these two actions are actually very connected because, as the Bible states, all people are made in the image of God. So, if you love that which is created by God and in God's likeness, it's as though you are extending love to God Himself. It's like being kind and respectful to an ambassador of a foreign country. Extending kindness to that person shows respect for their country and its leadership. Conversely, if you show disrespect towards that ambassador, it would be the same as disrespecting their country and their leaders directly. Now, we did mention that even though everyone is made in the image of God, we don't always do the best at acting like it. However, we as Christians have been commissioned to act like it and live into the calling of being God's representatives to the world around us. So that begs the question for today's discussion. What does it look like to act like an image of God? There's a passage in Matthew chapter 5 where Jesus is speaking to a crowd and he's describing to them what it looks like to live in the kingdom of God and how we as representatives of that kingdom are supposed to act towards God and one another. This chapter is full of many of Jesus' most famous teachings, but right at verse 13, Jesus says something very interesting and a tad odd. He says, "You are the salt of the earth." And then in verse 14, he echoes that by saying, "You are the light of the world." Well, let's back up a second here. What that salt of the earth thing? We are the salt of the earth? I don't know about you, but being salty is not typically a good thing where I come from. And if you're not familiar with the phrase being salty, just imagine someone is discussing a situation with you that you're maybe still a little bit bitter about, and so you respond defensively or curtly to what's being said. You'd be considered salty in that moment because you've still got some unresolved anger towards that issue or person. Now, let's clear the air and rest assured that's not the type of saltiness that Jesus is talking about. So, what is he talking about? Well, let's consider what salt is. It's a seasoning that brings out the flavor in whatever you season it with. French fries, for example, are good, but without salt, they're kind of plain. Add a dash of this ubiquitous seasoning and presto, you can't have just one. That is what Jesus is saying. We are to be the seasoning of the earth. Strange as that may sound. But in other words, we are to bring out the flavor, the life, the vitality in the world around us. Our lives are to act as a light, an image or an example to those around us of what it looks like to live in the kingdom of God. We are to act in a way that makes people want more of God's kingdom. And, fun fact, it's actually not at its core about following rules and restrictions. It's actually about casting off that which hinders us from living closer to God and being filled by His life, Spirit, and presence. It's about a life of freedom. And for those of us living in the 21st century, however, it may actually mean clearing out some space for God to exist in our daily existence so that we can step into that freedom. And that's what I'd like to encourage you to think about this week and what I'll be thinking about as well. How have we been an image of God to the world around us? Have we offered blessings or curses in what we've said to others? Have we strived to be peacemakers, or have we consciously or unconsciously been instigators? Do we even have the time and space in our lives to seek God and be near Him in a way that His traits will rub off on us in the same way that the mannerisms and sayings of our friends rub off on us as we spend time with them? I think that last one is probably the one that I'll be working on the most. As I declutter my garage, I should also declutter my schedule to spend time with God in prayer and in His scriptures so that I can look and act like Him as I spend time with Him. If you need some ideas for what it looks like to be an image bearer of God, then, try reading Matthew 5, 1 through 16. You'll find a rather curious and at times even counterintuitive list of what Jesus says it looks like to live in his kingdom. See which of those teachings stick out to you and then respond to it in how you live this week. Well, that's enough food for thought for this episode, so I'll wrap up here and let us get to thinking about being an image of God and how we can do that with our lives. Before we go, I would like to thank you for listening to this episode of Equipped in Grace, and I hope that it has been a blessing to you and your walk with the Lord. Typically, we post new episodes of this show every Wednesday at 8 a.m. Eastern Time, but in case there are any schedule changes on the horizon, be sure to subscribe to this show or follow it on the podcast app of your choice to be notified of our latest postings or any schedule changes. In the meantime, may the Lord bless you and keep you. Bye-bye.